the funds that are based on fundamentals, they don't even attempt to time their entries either. That doesn't really, you know what I mean? That doesn't even come on their radar. It's
two traders, Darren and Walter, pull back the curtain on profitable trading systems, consistent money management, and profitable psychological triggers. Welcome to the Two Traders podcast.
All right, here we are, part 3 of the interview with James. And now what I want to do is just make sure that you have listened to the other two parts, part 1 and part 2. If you haven't, please go back and listen to those, or this one won't make any sense at all. In this episode, you will see the advice that James would now, today, give to his younger self, which is somewhat surprising. You'll also see why your handwriting could determine your financial future. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but it's true. You'll also see the perfect time for traders to take a break from their trading and how James found out about this information, how he uses this information with his trading team at his fund. You'll see what potential investors look at when deciding whether or not to give you money. James does a really good job of touching on this. You'll see how James's fund made money during the famed Brexit event, even though a lot of other funds were completely blasted during this historical vote in the United Kingdom. And you'll see why they call James's method a slow method of trading, how this came about, and also why Darren suggests that he would probably be frustrated if he was trading James's slow method. All this and more in episode 59 of the Two Traders podcast, part 3 of 3.
It sounds like a lot of them are people that you know, too, that you've just kind of invited from the IT company or something like that.
It was people that I trusted and who excelled in their fields as well.
Right. So there's a comfort level that you had to have before you sort of invited them to the table, so to speak. Right.
But anyway, that was one of the things. Don't snuffle your traders. They have to be close to you. They have to be trustworthy. And another thing as well is they have to have a self-drive. They have to want to trade. You can't make a trader out of nothing. If they don't have the drive to trade, they're never going to be traders.
Yeah, basically it wasn't just a case of they had a particularly good strategy, or you weren't just looking purely at their results. You were kind of mixing a bit of that with how you felt about them as a person and how they came across their personality as well.
Exactly. They had to have those intricate personality traits as well, because if they didn't have those traits, there would be particular issues as well. Because I'm a very systematic individual, so I can be hard to get along with sometimes. So I had to fit with a cultural team as well.
That's interesting. It kind of reminds me of the whole turtle argument, where, the Richard Dennis says anyone can learn how to trade, and then his partner, I forget the other guy, the mathematician, or the guy that almost got his PhD in mathematics, he says, no, you have to have a certain, makeup to make it as a trader. So you would, I mean, and to be fair, I don't think all of the turtles actually did well. I think there was at least one that didn't do well. So you would be more on the side of it's easier to teach a certain type of trader how to trade. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I would be looking for a certain personality, certain individual, certain type of trader. What I wouldn't want someone who is conflicting, argumentative, not open-minded, that type of thing.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So, yeah. I mean, I tend to agree. I think that you can look at a profile, like a personality profile, and you can figure out, like, for example, impulsiveness is a big one for me. If you score high in impulsiveness, then unless you have some sort of risk manager, some sort of system in place to keep that in check, you're probably going to be the type of trader who might be able to build up an account, but then you could blow it up too rather quickly.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So let's talk about sort of the day-to-day operation. So now you've got this fund, and you've got some traders, and I know we've talked in the past about, or emailed about, working with traders and dealing with traders and things like that. And it sounds like you've found your groove in terms of, finding the right type of person. It doesn't necessarily matter exactly what they're doing as long as the results fit in a certain parameters for your fund. So right now, day to day, what is your main focus on the fund? Is it just keeping all the I's dotted and the T's crossed and that sort of thing, or you're still actively trading? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm still actively trading. I trade most of the funds. So yes, so definitely active trading.
Right. Okay. And so how does that work in terms of lifestyle? Do you just trade 4-hour daily charts and that sort of thing, or do you have okay, I'm going to sit down, it's the London Open, so I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get ready and I'm going to trade this?
Well, I mean, for me, I probably spend most of the London 4-hourly charts and daily charts for me, my two main charts at the moment.
Right, yeah, okay. And what are some of the things that you would say about your trading that, you feel okay, looking back today, where you are, looking back to the old James who was just starting to dip his toe into forex trading, what's the advice that you give the younger James who's just starting to get into this? What do you tell him? He comes to you and he says, "All right, James, tell me what I need to know as I'm getting into this." What do you tell him?
I would tell him to slow down a bit and not jump into running a fund straight away. That's one of the main things, because it would have been a lot less stressful. I think that would be true. The other thing I would say is, is don't trade with real money to begin with. That was a big thing for me. Trade with paper money until you've got your strategy and your psychology all done, and when you're ready, jump into the market. I think that's the most important thing.
Right. But younger James says to you, but I need to make, I want to make 700,000. So, I'm not going to make 700,000 if I'm demo trading, paper trading. I need to make this money. He says that to you. So then what do you say?
Well, I'll give an example. Over my career, I've lost about 670,000. So obviously I've earned a lot of money through that process. But that loss statement would be a lot less now if I had been patient, and I think that is very true when trading. I mean, you might make millions, but people don't look at the millions, they look at what the loss is on the other end, and especially potential investors. So every losing trade does play against you in your final statistics, and we do know this as traders. So getting your strategy right and making the mistakes on the paper account earlier on would be better than putting them in real life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, right.
I mean, when I'm talking about profits as well, I mean, our fund's a little over 300 million at the moment. So 670 actually is classified as an acceptable loss, as a totalized loss. So
that makes sense. So let me ask you this, James. What are you trying to do right now in your life to kind of streamline your trading, make it easier on you? Because you've got a team of traders, you're trading yourself, you've got all this, all the paperwork associated with the fund and all that. So what do you like? Sort of, how are you managing it? What's the framework that you're setting up to kind of help this? I guess make it easier on you in that sense.
Well, one of the things was taking on more traders. So we only trade 3 months a year. That was my principal aim. It's a crazy design, but I wanted to only trade 3 months a year. And by having more traders, that was the intention of the fund. It's a little ingenious plan that I've been working on, but so far it's working quite well. And it also allows you, when you have a particular health issue, as I do, to rest up and not always be trading in the markets.
Wow, that's fascinating. So how does that work? Is it that, like, trader A, he trades January through March, and then trader B picks up in April, or how does that work?
Pretty much, yep. And they all have the different strategies they trade on each account, and it's just a cycle. And it's good as well because, you know what they say, when you're trading, you get traders fatigue, and you'll find that we found within 3 months, traders would do really well, and after 3 months you'd see deterioration. and their trading accuracy. So by doing shorter terms, they actually got better performance out of them.
Right. And so your traders then paid? So they're paid like sort of, as if they were working the other 9 months of the year. So they're not just paid 3 months and then you pay them, 9 months later when they step back on board. You actually sort of pay them every month. Is that how that works?
We pay them every month. Yeah. It takes the stress off them as well. It's not a huge rate. It's not like $1 million or anything like that. It's a regular salary that keeps people being able to pay for their living expenses without affecting their trading on their fund.
And then they get a bonus based on performance.
Yeah, they get a 50-50 cut. It's actually quite good. Although if you want to get recruited, you have to go through our B2B partners, and they're pretty hard to please, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's what's funny, James, because you tell me these stories about how hard it is to jump through the hurdles, and then there are other traders where, like, I know another guy who has a fund, and it's like a completely different story. It's so funny how everyone's experience is different. You know what I mean? Like it's wild, really. It is wild.
Well, I begin to question, where did they set their trading fund up from? Because I mean, and this is, I think, being through the process is quite important as well. If you set a trading fund up in Australia, it's like being kicked in the balls multiple times. I hope I'm allowed to say that. There's so much red tape and regulation. If I was to go and set it up in Dubai or in the USA, I'm not sure if that regulation would apply. So it's more difficult to run a trading fund here due to tax, regulation, and red tape. So wherever this person is running their fund who's having a way time, please give me their number. Because while I enjoy running the fund, it's a lot of work. Yeah. And that's what people need to understand, especially in Australia.
Yeah, and it's different. It's different. Like, I have another friend. He has a fund in the UK, and his investors in Europe, want to see his handwriting. They want to do a handwriting analysis before they give him money. I mean, it's crazy, like, what people look at. I know, and you've told me these stories it's wild how the background, what they look into, and I think it just depends on who's running the show, what kind of profile they want to get from you. Like, some people just want your record, other people want your handwriting. Still others want to know if you're a child molester. It's like all this crazy stuff that people are looking into when it comes to money. And I guess money makes people funny, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and it can turn people to do stupid things as well. But one of my recruitment profiles, and we've been working on recruiting someone at the moment for the fund, which has gone on hold because everyone lost their cheese during the exit, apart from my fund. But have a bit of a joke because it's a Brie exit. But one of the things was they had all this great, profiling, etc. But they had no psychology as part of the recruitment. Putting someone in a high pressure environment, seeing how they react. Are they systematic? For example, seeing if they can take command of a situation and complete a task within a certain time frame, etc. Which is all important when profiling individuals. But a lot of the industry didn't have that. They just disregarded it as mumbo jumbo. But it does really make a difference. Now it's used in recruiting firefighters, paramedics, and nurses on how to deal with critical situations. So, yeah. I think the industry is still learning, but yeah, from a recruitment point of view and from a running point of view, I still think the industry is very young, and it needs to learn a lot. So
yeah, absolutely. There's certain sacred cows. I was talking to a trader who's institutional trader, and he was saying that it was funny because he's basically a price action trader, but he can't really tell his boss that. He's got to give him all these fundamental reasons why he's taking these trades, even though it's total BS. It's like, well, yeah, with the Brexit and this and that and blah blah. He's got to come up with these reasons when really he's just looking at price action. It's crazy, but there's certain things that are just it's just not the way we do things, son. That's how it is. Yeah.
Well, when we guys did a buy position on the exit and made really good amount back, I mean, the fund did very well in that week. Everyone was like, why the hell did you buy? And we were like, well, that was the price action. And they couldn't understand, but 97% of their funds failed to make a profit. They actually made a loss because obviously the downsell was quite whippy and nasty. But it was just amazing that they disregarded price action. But yet most of the price action traders were correct.
Yeah.
So you're following price. You're not following, whether. I mean, and it's an emotional market. It's all psychology. You're actually watching people rushing to the market, exiting, rushing, exiting, and that's the result. And then those little patterns print based off statistics. But still, I reckon it's funny that the big boys didn't pick up on it, and most of them lost actually. And we were only one of the very few funds that actually made money, and now everyone's talking to us. It's quite funny. I'd get celebrity status overnight for making a decision based off statistics, and they think it's some hocus pocus or something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's crazy. They don't, so the funds that are based on fundamentals, they don't even attempt to time their entries either. That doesn't really, you know what I mean? That doesn't even come on their radar. It's amazing to me the millions they could save if they just simply had someone there who could say, okay, let's get in now, boys. They can. It's not that difficult, but yet it's just not on their radar when they're looking at it from a different angle, isn't it? So it's fascinating.
It is, and one of the reasons why I find Darren's method of trading very fascinating, and I've been actually working on that particular method just recently for some fun, and it's pretty price focused, and it does make a difference. And I'm sure Darren will agree that price is the key when it comes to trading.
So what do you tell these people when you're trying to teach them this method, James? What do you tell them? Like, how do you sort of prepare them? Because psychologically, I think it can be difficult depending on the person, of course.
The problem with my method, they call it the slow-mo method, and it is slow. You have very few trades, and you're trading swing points and zones and price action, and that's really all about it. And a lot of people really struggle with it. And the true reality is that they don't want to be consistent with it, which doesn't tell me it's the system that's at fault. That's the attitude of the trader. I mean, you can take anyone's trading system and make profit out of it as long as it has an edge at the end of the day. But if you're not willing to see it through to the end, you're never going to see any profit from it. And I think Darren will agree, traders are too quick to give up really quickly when they don't get the results that they want the first time round, or that it's a bit slower in the market. And as a beginning trader, you're not going to be a perfectionist at that particular method. You're learning that method, so you'll start out making maybe 50%, and then get 55%, and then 60%, and then you'll grow from there.
Yeah, it putting the time in is one of the hardest hurdles to get over. And it's those cognitive biases that we've all got, and that's the key thing, is we've all got them, and they're going to affect us all to a different degree, and that's why you see traders making the same mistakes over and over again. And I've been sort of looking at your trading recently because I knew we were going to have this podcast, and we're just kind of skimming over how you're trading. I could see that I can put myself in that position of trading that strategy, and know, because I know how I deal with those things as a trader. I can pick the areas that I would have trouble with, and with your trading, I'd have trouble with not just waiting for the entry. It'd be when you wait for that entry, and then it's a loser, and then having to wait for the next one, and then sticking to your rules on the next one, and not thinking, I've had this loss, I want to get it back so badly that I'm going to twist the rules a little bit to get in. And then you go down that spiral of kind of unraveling your whole strategy and getting a string of losses then.
Exactly, and then you're spot on with that as well, is that it can be psychologically depriving of the individual. But this is where you need to sort of be, icy about it and trade it as almost like a robot at the end of the day. But you just got to stick to your gun, stick to the system, and consistently see the profits take hold. But it's just one of those things that a lot of my system as well, particularly because it's time based. It can be gut wrenching when you've waited a whole month for a trade and then the trade fails. Exactly, it can be, and then you start trying to tweak it to make it better. But I never started becoming a good trader until I stopped tweaking. I found a system with an edge. I traded it, and I traded it consistently. But for traders out there that think every time they take a trade, if they're thinking that they need to tweak it or they're not confident on taking that trade, first of all, you should be taking the trade in the first place if you're not confident on it. But if you're thinking about tweaking it, you need to go back to Forex Tester, because you're doing something in your psychology which is modifying your system on the run, which is another problem traders have.
Yeah, I hope everyone caught that, because that's critical. That's really good advice. Basically, what you're saying is that if you're changing your system, and often this is based on the last trade you had, because my last trade did this, then next time I'll do this or whatever. If you're doing that, then you haven't settled on a system. And so go back to the drawing board and figure it out in Forex Tester as James just suggested. That's great advice, James. So James, I just want to thank you for this, and it was fascinating having you sit here with Darren and I, and we like to see how you do things and how what sorts of things you've learned. And is there anything that you kind of want to leave everyone with, any sort of advice or anything that you think we've missed or we should have asked you?
I think the last thing I would love to leave people with is please listen to Mark Douglas, read his book. Because that was my turning point in trading, and you'll find out there's special sources in that book, and please read it. That's a very important thing. Psychology is 80% of trading, and I think that's my final bit I'm going to say on it.
Yeah, great. That's great. That's great advice. You're talking about the Trading in the Zone, yeah? Is that the one?
Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. And by the way, the book will become rarer now that he's no longer with us either. So, get your hands on a copy and read it.
Yeah.
You'll find it will turn your trading around pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's great advice, James. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time, James, and sharing what you have with us here. I really appreciate it. And thanks, Darren, for sitting in on this too. I hope it was as helpful for you as it was for me. I really appreciate this, James. You've kind of, I think, lifted the lid on what it's like to, build up your account and go into that managed money of managed, go into that financial world that's so different from the retail Forex world. So thanks a lot for your time, James. I really appreciate it.
No worries, thanks a lot. Just to remember, it's not all cookies and cream, people. Not all cookies and cream.
That's great advice.
Yeah, James, thanks for coming tonight.
No worries.
Thanks for chatting with us tonight, James. It's been nice to meet you, and we'll speak soon on the forum, no doubt.
We sure will, or on the next catch-up when I'm a little bit better on the health side of it. But we will catch up one time on a master session, I'm sure.
Cool. Take care, James. Thank you.
See you later, mate. Cheers.
Thank you. See ya.